The moment my daughter said she was pregnant, I felt joy. But the moment she whispered the father's name, something inside me died. That is the line I keep hearing in my head, like a slow echo bouncing off the walls of a house that used to be warm. I remember the sound of her voice, soft, shaky, almost apologetic, and I remember the way my hands trembled before I even knew why. People talk about heartbreak like it happens all at once, like a glass shattering on the floor, but mine cracked slowly, in thin, invisible fractures I didn't even feel until my whole world collapsed under my feet. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the day it started. Back to a kitchen that smelled of cinnamon tea, with sunlight spilling in just the right way, making everything feel calmer than it would ever be again. My name is Leela. I'm 46 years old, and for most of my life, I've been a woman who believed in keeping things peaceful. Not perfect, just peaceful. I raised my daughter Maya on my own since she was 11. Her father left the day he realized being a husband meant more than providing a paycheck. I made mistakes, sure, but I tried. I always tried. Our home was small, but warm. Not the Pinterest kind of warm, just lived in, familiar. The kitchen table had a scratch across the top from when Maya did a science project there. The sofa leaned a little more to one side because she and her friends used to pile onto it for movie nights. Every corner held a memory, and every memory held her. Even when she moved out at 23 to find her own space, she came back almost every other day. Sometimes to eat, sometimes to borrow something, sometimes just to sit with me and tell me about her day. I loved those visits. They made the house feel alive. But on the day she told me she was pregnant, she didn't look alive. She looked haunted. It was a Saturday morning, the kind where nothing feels urgent. I was making cinnamon tea and humming an old song from the radio. The kettle hadn't even started boiling yet when the front door opened without a knock. "Mom?" she called. "In the kitchen, baby," I said, smiling. She always walked straight in like she lived there, and I secretly hoped she would forever. But when she turned the corner, I saw something was off. Her shoulders were tight. Her eyes were swollen, like she'd cried all night. And she was wringing her hands the way she did when she was little and nervous about confessing something. I set the spoon down. "What's wrong?" She sat down at the table, hard, like her legs had given way. "I need to talk to you." That sentence alone could drain the blood from any mother's face. "What happened?" I asked quietly. She didn't speak. She just stared at her hands, twisting them in her lap. The air felt heavier with every second. Even the kettle went quiet, as if it too was waiting for her to say something. Finally, she whispered, "Mom, I'm pregnant." I exhaled, slowly. Not from disappointment, but from relief because whatever storm she had walked in with, I could handle this. A baby? We could figure that out. I moved toward her, reaching for her hand. "Maya, it's okay. You're an adult. We'll work through this. I'm here for you." She flinched when I touched her. Actually flinched. That was the first crack. Small, almost invisible, but real. I pulled my hand back and she closed her eyes like she was bracing herself for impact. "Who's the father?" I asked gently. Her breath caught, not like a gasp, more like something choking her from the inside. She shook her head, once, twice, and then she whispered, "I didn't mean for it to happen. I swear, I didn't mean to. He said he'd talk to you, that it wasn't serious. Mom, please." I held up my hand, not in anger, in surrender, because I couldn't hear anymore. The room felt wrong. The light felt wrong. Even the smell of cinnamon tea felt wrong, like it belonged to a different life, a life that no longer existed.
Maya, I said quietly, I need a moment. She reached for my arm. Mom, please, don't walk away from me. But I already had. Not physically, emotionally. My legs finally moved, slow and stiff, carrying me toward the sink. I gripped the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. Behind me, she cried. Soft, broken, terrified cries. But I stared at the faucet because looking at anything else would have destroyed me. The truth had been spoken, and nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same.
I didn't know how long I stood there, holding on to the kitchen counter like it was the only thing keeping me upright. The metal edge pressed into my palm, grounding me, anchoring me to a reality I didn't want to accept. Behind me, Maya's crying finally quieted to a shaky breath. "Mom," she whispered again, voice trembling, "please say something." I turned around slowly. She looked small, smaller than I had seen her since she was a child, when a thunderstorm would shake the house and she'd run into my room, clutching her blanket. Except this time, she wasn't the one who needed protecting. I can't talk right now," I whispered. She stood from the chair like she wanted to hug me, but the moment she stepped closer, my body moved instinctively back. Her face crumpled. "Please don't look at me like that." I wasn't looking at her with anger. I was looking at her with heartbreak. I grabbed my keys from the counter without thinking. I didn't grab a jacket, I didn't grab my bag. I just needed to breathe. The walls felt too close, the air felt too thick, and every inch of that kitchen reminded me of Aaron. Laughing, cooking, kissing me casually while he stirred a pot on the stove. I walked toward the door, but before I could step out, Maya rushed forward and blocked me. "Mom, don't leave me alone," she pleaded. "Please, I didn't plan this. I didn't—" "Move," I whispered. She shook her head. "Not until you tell me you don't hate me." I closed my eyes, fighting the ache in my chest. "I don't hate you," I said quietly. "Then look at me." But I couldn't, because looking at her meant remembering every moment I trusted her, every secret we shared, every time she said she loved me. And now, this. "Maya," I said softly, "please let me go." Her chin trembled. She stepped aside. I walked out without another word. The air outside was cold enough to bite, but it felt cleaner than the suffocating warmth of the kitchen. I got into the car and drove without a destination. The roads blurred under the streetlights. My thoughts scattered like crushed glass. My daughter, my partner, a baby. My hands shook on the wheel. I pulled over near the lake, the same lake Aaron once took me to on our 1-year anniversary. We'd sat on a blanket, drinking hot chocolate from a thermos he brought. I remember thinking he felt safe. Safe. How could I have been so wrong? I leaned forward and let my forehead rest on the steering wheel. My breath came out in short bursts. The tears didn't fall, not yet. It was like my body refused to release them until I had answers. And one answer mattered more than anything. Why? I don't know how long I stayed by that lake. Time didn't feel real. Eventually, when the cold seeped through my clothes, I drove to the one place I shouldn't have, Aaron's apartment. The parking lot was nearly empty. His window, the one facing the street, was lit. He was home. I climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavy like walking through mud. I didn't even knock hard. Just a small tap,
barely a knock at all. But he opened the door within seconds. Lila, his voice was surprised, too surprised. It's late. Everything okay? Everything okay. That phrase alone almost made me laugh. He stepped aside, letting me in. The moment I walked into his apartment, a wave of déjà vu hit me. The scent of cedar wood, the soft hum of his old refrigerator, the pair of his running shoes tossed near the couch. This was the place I shared so many weekends with him, the place I once imagined moving into someday. He rubbed the back of his neck. "You're scaring me. What's wrong?" "Aaron," my voice cracked. "We need to talk." He frowned. "What happened?" I swallowed hard. My lips felt numb. "Maya told me she's pregnant." He blinked. "Oh, wow. Okay. Congratulations to her then. Is she—" "Stop," I whispered. His eyebrows pulled together. I took a breath. "It's your child." His face drained of color. So quickly I could see it happen. His mouth opened slightly, but he didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't breathe. "Aaron?" He closed his eyes and exhaled through his nose, slow and shaky. "So she told you." The room tilted for a moment. "You're not denying it," I said. He dropped on the edge of the couch like his legs couldn't hold him. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, face in his hands. "I didn't want you to find out like this," he mumbled. "Like this." My chest tightened. "So, there was a plan for how I'd find out you slept with my daughter." He winced. "Maya, please." "When?" I demanded.
The pastor's wife, Mrs. Caldwell, cleared her throat softly, the kind of polite cough church women use when they're about to meddle. "May, sweetheart, why don't you sit? You look like you're about to faint." She didn't realize I wasn't about to faint. I was fighting a full-blown spiritual evacuation from my own body. But I sat. My legs didn't feel like mine. My heartbeat wasn't beating, it was slamming. Across from me, Lila sat with her hands folded neatly, like she was waiting for a doctor's report. Except she already knew the diagnosis. I swallowed hard. "Okay," I whispered. "Tell me again, slowly, clearly, because my ears are confused." Lila's eyes were glassy. "Mom, the father is a man named—" She paused. My throat tightened. "Malik." 2 seconds of silence. 5 seconds. 10. Then I blinked. "Sorry, who?" Lila took a shaky breath. "Malik, from the community center. He volunteers in the youth mentorship program." I stared at her like she just told me she was pregnant by the Easter Bunny. "I know him," I said slowly. Of course I knew him. Everybody did. He was that tall, soft-spoken ex-athlete who'd rebuilt his life after prison. He'd been the poster boy for second chances. "But no," I whispered, shaking my head. "No, no, 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 Lila, baby, he's 39, she finished quietly. My stomach dropped. "I'm 19. she added. And there it was. Not illegal, but morally astronomical. A storm inside a storm. Lila, baby, why? Why him, baby? Why a grown man with a whole past, a whole life, a whole decade of mileage? Her lips trembled. Because he listened to me. Oh God, not that phrase. Not that phrase. The phrase every mother fears right behind, it just happened. I pressed my fingers to my forehead. Listened how? Lila, he's a mentor, not a boyfriend. She looked down at her hands. We spent time together. He helped me with my art portfolio. He said I was talented. He said I had potential, that I was mature for my age. I closed my eyes. There it was, the sentence that ruins young girls by the thousands every year. You're mature for your age. I opened my eyes again and my voice cracked. Lila, sweetheart, that doesn't make him a father figure. That makes him... I know what you're thinking, she burst out. Tears spilled over her cheeks. But he's not like that. He didn't pursue me, I pursued him. I liked him first. Lila, I'm not a child. You are, I snapped louder than I meant to. The room went still. Even the pastor's wife flinched. My hands were shaking, trembling like my nerves were short-circuiting. Lila wiped her cheeks with the back of her sleeve. I know what you're thinking. He manipulated me. But Mom, he wasn't some creep chasing after a younger girl. He was someone I connected with, someone who made me feel seen. My throat clogged. I thought I saw you, I whispered. Her chin wobbled. You do, but you're my mom. You're always busy, always worried, always trying to fix everything. Sometimes I just wanted someone who wasn't overwhelmed. I felt that like a brick to the chest. Mrs. Caldwell placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. May, breathe. But I couldn't, because the more Lila spoke, the more my fear turned into something uglier. A guilt I had never asked for, but suddenly felt responsible for. Had my exhaustion pushed my daughter into the arms of someone else? I swallowed hard. Okay, I said, voice barely stable. Let's move slowly, one step at a time. I forced myself to inhale. How long has this been going on? Her silence answered before she did. 7 months, she whispered. My jaw dropped. 7 months? Lila? She nodded weakly. Since last spring. I covered my mouth. Last spring? That was around the time I worked double shifts, when my migraines were constant, when I'd been barely present at home. I felt like I'd failed every parenting exam ever made. And you're sure? I asked, though the answer was written all over her face. Yes, she said. I sat there numb. Does he know? About the baby? Lila wiped her eyes. No, not yet. My vision blurred. Why? She hesitated, then looked away. He told me last month he was planning to move to North Carolina. His brother's opening a fitness center. He wanted to help run it. I froze. He said distance would help me find someone my own age, someone better. Her voice cracked. He was trying to end it. And that's when understanding hit me like a freight train. This man wasn't trying to build a family with her. He was trying to escape the situation. Lila sobbed. I didn't tell him because I didn't want him to feel trapped. I didn't want him to think I was trying to keep him here.
I rubbed my face, overwhelmed. Baby, I whispered, he deserves to know. She shook her head violently. Mom, please. We have to, I repeated softly but firmly, because the truth always arrives, even if you refuse to open the door. And when it comes loud. She trembled in my arms. And I felt it, the next storm forming. The storm that would happen when Malik heard he was going to be the father. A storm we couldn't avoid. A storm that would change all of us. Forever.
I didn't sleep that night. Lila cried herself into a light, exhausted doze on the couch beside me, her head still tucked into my shoulder. Every few minutes, her breathing would hitch, like her body remembered she was hurting, even when her mind drifted off. I stroked her hair gently. My baby, my only child, my entire heart. And some 39-year-old man with muscles, life experience, and enough emotional influence to shake her world had been slipping into the cracks she thought she had to hide. Around 3 a.m., I got up and walked to the kitchen. I didn't bother turning on the lights. The soft glow from the microwave clock was enough. 2:57 a.m. My chest felt too tight. I poured a glass of water but didn't drink it. I just held it. Held it like it might steady me. How did I miss this? The whisper escaped without permission. How? Had I really been that busy? That tired? That blind? The guilt crept in like a draft under a door. Cold, quiet, unavoidable. I set the glass down. Then I reached for my phone. Not to call Malik. Not yet. I needed someone else first. Someone who would keep it real with me. Someone who didn't sugarcoat anything. I dialed my sister Nina. She picked up on the third ring, voice groggy and irritated. May, if someone died, say who. If not, hang up and call at a Christian hour. I inhaled. It's about Lila. Instant shift. Her voice snapped, fully awake. What happened? Is she okay? She's pregnant. Silence. Longer than I expected. Then, I'm listening, Nina said, voice low. I told her everything. The mentorship program, the emotional connection, the 7 months, the 39-year-old father. When I finished, Nina exhaled so deeply I could feel it through the phone. Lord have mercy, she muttered. That girl didn't just pick the wrong lane. She drove off the whole damn highway. I rubbed my forehead. Nina, please. No, May. I'm not judging her. I'm judging him. A grown man letting a 19-year-old fall for him? I don't care how gentle or reformed he is, that's a boundary he should have guarded like Fort Knox. Exactly. I felt seen for the first time in hours. But listen to me, May, Nina continued. You can't go in guns blazing, even though you want to, even though you should, even though he deserves it. I sat down heavily at the kitchen table. So, what do? I whispered. You talk to him, she said simply, face to face, with your daughter present, safe space, controlled room, neutral location. Because if you meet him angry, you'll tear the roof off. And if you wait too long, you'll tear your daughter apart. She was right. I hate how right she was. And May, Nina added, yeah? Don't let him run.
Men like that, when they feel the weight of consequences, they like to disappear. My jaw clenched. Oh, he's not disappearing. He's hearing this. Today. That's my sister, Nina said softly. Call me afterward. I hung up and sat in the dim kitchen for a full minute. Then I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I opened the mentorship program website and found the emergency contact list. There it was. Malik A., volunteer mentor. Phone number included. I stared at it for a long moment. Not because I was scared of him, but because I was scared of what this conversation would turn me into. Would I scream? Would I cry? Would I break? Or would I become a version of myself I'd never met? I took a breath, then another, then pressed call. The phone rang twice before a deep, calm voice answered. Hello? My throat tightened. Malik, this is Lila's mom. A short pause. Then his tone changed completely. Sharper, cautious. Is she okay? She's home, I said carefully. She's safe. But we need to talk. Another pause. Then, about what? My breath shook. About something that involves you and her future. He inhaled slowly, the kind of slow breath someone takes when they're bracing for impact. Okay, he said quietly. Tell me where and when. There was no denial, no confusion, no, what are you talking about? He knew. Of course he knew. I kept my voice steady. 10 a.m., community center, second floor meeting room, neutral ground. Okay, he said again. I added, Lila will be there. Silence. Then he murmured, almost to himself. She told you. Yes. A long, heavy exhale on his end. You're right. We need to talk. I hung up before I said something wild. When I walked back to the living room, Lila was sitting up, eyes puffy but awake. You called him? She whispered. Yes, I said gently. We're meeting him at 10. Fear washed over her face. Mom, I don't want you to hate me. Hate you, I whispered, sitting beside her. Baby, I'm angry. I'm overwhelmed. I'm scared. But hate? Never. Not even close. She trembled. What if he's mad? What if he says he wants nothing to do with the baby? I cupped her face. Then he'll live that shame forever. But you'll never do this alone. She clung to me again, but this time, not out of guilt or grief, but out of trust. We're in this together, no matter what. At 9:45 a.m., we arrived at the community center. The halls were quiet. The building smelt like floor cleaner and old basketballs. We walked to the second floor meeting room. Lila's hand stayed in mine the whole time, squeezing tighter with every step. I opened the door. He was already there, sitting in a chair, arms resting on his knees, head bowed. When he looked up, our eyes met. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I saw something I wasn't expecting in his face. Not arrogance, not indifference, not fear of being caught, but guilt. Real, heavy guilt. He stood up slowly. Miss May? Lila, he said softly. My heart hammered against my ribs. Sit. He did. I took a seat across from him. Lila sat beside me. For a moment, no one spoke. The room felt too small for all the tension. Then, finally, I leaned forward and said the words that would change the air completely. She's pregnant. His reaction was immediate and visceral, like someone had punched the wind out of his body. His eyes widened. His breath caught. His whole posture collapsed inward. Oh God, no, no, no. He whispered. His hands went to his face. Lila looked down. I stared at him coldly. Did you not know? I asked. He shook his head hard. May, I swear to you, I had no idea. Then he looked at my daughter, eyes full of devastation. Lila, why didn't you tell me? Her voice cracked. Because you were leaving. He closed his eyes and whispered.
Malik's words hung in the air like smoke, thin, bitter, impossible to ignore. I was leaving because I knew this was wrong. He sat there with his hands still covering his face, shoulders trembling just slightly, not enough for pity, but enough to reveal the truth. He wasn't a predator. He wasn't a monster. He was a weak man who had crossed the line he should have guarded with his life. I folded my hands on the table, forcing myself to breathe evenly. Look at me, Malik. He dropped his hands slowly and lifted his eyes. There was no defiance in them, only shame. You're almost 40 years old, I said quietly. She's 19. 19. You were her mentor, her guide, her safe space, and instead of drawing a boundary, I crossed it. He whispered. No. I corrected gently but firmly. You stepped over it, walked past it, and built a campfire on the other side. A dry, humorless breath escaped him. He deserved that jab. Leela kept her gaze lowered, twisting the hem of her cardigan around her fingers. Her silence felt like someone squeezing my heart. I am not going to raise my voice, I continued. I am not going to curse. I am not going to accuse you of being something you're not, but you will explain yourself to me. Every part. He nodded once, small, defeated. Start with this, I said, leaning back. When did you know she had feelings for you? He swallowed hard. A few months in. He admitted. She was vulnerable, and I was coming out of a rough period. Divorce finalized, quiet house, too much time alone. I'd told myself I was just helping her, being supportive. But the truth is, I needed someone to talk to just as much as she did. So you let her fill a void, I said softly. Yes. And when she started seeing you as more than a mentor, you didn't stop it. He winced. No, I didn't. His voice broke. I should have. Damn right he should have. Did you ever force her, pressure her, manipulate her? Never, he said quickly, shaking his head. If anything, she was the one trying to keep distance. I'm the one who let the lines blur. I'm the one who let those long conversations turn into something they never should have been. I glanced at Leela. She whispered, without looking up. Mom, he didn't pressure me, I swear. The words didn't comfort me as much as they should have, because even without pressure, the imbalance was still real.
The responsibility was still his. I turned back to him. When it became physical, I said, choosing my words carefully, "Was it you or her who initiated it?" He closed his eyes. "She kissed me first, but I kissed her back, and that's on me." Every muscle in his jaw tightened. He continued, "I'd told myself I'd stop it. I'd told myself every time that it was the last time. Then I applied for a transfer to another center. I was going to disappear from her life because I knew it was healthier for her." "You should have stopped it long before that." "I know," he whispered. "And now," I said, heart thudding painfully, "she's pregnant." He pressed his fingers to his mouth, eyes dropping to his lap. "I want to do right by her, by the baby. Whatever you think that looks like, I'll follow your lead." That surprised me, because I expected excuses or denial or defensiveness, not surrender. But surrender or not, acceptance wasn't going to come easy. I leaned forward, voice controlled and quiet, the kind of quiet where every syllable lands like weight on a scale. "Malik, I shattered something in my daughter that I can't put back together." He flinched. "She's 19, I said again. "She was still figuring out who she is, and you left fingerprints on her soul during a season where she needed guidance, not romance." He nodded slowly, eyes shining with regret. "You're right," he whispered. "You're right. About everything." "And now," I said, "you expect me to trust you to be part of a baby's life?" "I don't expect you to trust me," he said, looking me in the eye. "I expect to earn whatever small amount of trust I can, piece by piece, if you let me." I studied him. He wasn't lying. I knew enough broken men to recognize one who was genuinely remorseful, but remorse didn't undo damage. Leela finally looked up. Her voice trembled. "Mom, I still care about him." The sentence felt like someone sliding a blade between my ribs. Slow, clean, intentional. "Sweetheart," I breathed. She shook her head, tears gathering. "I know you're angry. I know it's complicated. But he's not some random guy. He knows me. He listened to me. He cared." I felt a sharp, motherly ache in my chest. "Baby," I said softly, "loving someone doesn't always make them good for you." Malik wiped his face, looking devastated. "I don't expect her to forgive me. God knows I'm not even forgiving myself. But I won't abandon her or the baby, not for a second." The sincerity in his voice was infuriatingly believable. "Malik," he continued, "I'll go to counseling, I'll step back, I'll take any boundaries you set. I'll involve lawyers, mediators, whatever you want." Boundaries. The word echoed. I realized something in that moment. I wasn't just talking to a man who made a mistake. I was talking to the father of my future grandchild, whether I liked it or not. I exhaled slowly. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, steadying myself against the table. "I'm not giving you an answer today. Not about involvement, not about parenting, not about anything." He nodded. "You give us time, space, no romantic contact, no late-night conversations, no visits without my permission. Leela needs clarity, and clarity cannot come from love-sick emotions or blurred lines." He swallowed hard. "I understand. And," I added, voice firm, You will tell your organization, your supervisor, your director. You will be honest. If they remove you from the program, that's your consequence, not hers. His face paled a little, but he nodded. I'll do it today. Good, because hiding was not an option. Leela touched my hand under the table. I squeezed it gently. We're not done, I told him. This is just the beginning of a long conversation. He nodded once more, quietly. I'll be here, whatever you need, whenever you're ready. We left the building without looking back. But halfway down the stairs, Leela gripped the railing, eyes closing. Mom, what if this ruins everything? I wrapped my arm around her. It doesn't ruin everything, I said softly. It just changes everything. The difference between ruin and change? Strength. And we were going to find ours together.
I wish I could tell you that things calmed down after that meeting, that we went home, closed the blinds, made tea, and quietly processed everything like civilized people. But life doesn't hand you neat chapters tied with ribbons, especially not scandal. Especially not scandal involving a 19-year-old girl and a man nearly twice her age who worked for a youth mentorship organization. The world doesn't stay quiet when something like that surfaces. It roars. The call that started the fire. It began 2 days later. I was stirring a pot of oatmeal when my phone buzzed on the counter. I didn't recognize the number, and I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hello? May? This is Serena from the community center. My chest tightened. Serena, the director. We need you to come in, she said, voice stiff, formal. Something's happened. My spoon froze midair. What happened? I asked. Silence. Then, carefully, someone reported Malik's relationship with Leela, anonymously. I closed my eyes. Not because I was surprised, but because I knew exactly where this was going. And because Leela is a former participant, we are required to escalate this to compliance and state review. State review. Those words hit like cold water. Is she in trouble? I asked sharply. No, she said, but he is. I exhaled slowly. And you know the community, she added quietly. People talk. Word is spreading. Of course it was. People love tragedy when they're not the ones bleeding. I'll be there in an hour. When families break their own. Before I left, I called Leela's father, my ex-husband, Daniel. We hadn't spoken more than a handful of words in years, but this was too big to ignore. He answered on the third ring. May, everything all right? No, I said honestly. You need to hear something directly from me. I told him everything, or as much as I could say without letting my voice shake. He didn't interrupt, didn't breathe too loudly, didn't react at all until I finished. Then, that man is dead to me. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Daniel, he was her mentor. Do you understand what that means? I'll ruin him. Stop, I said firmly. This isn't about revenge. It's about Leela, and she doesn't need rage around her right now. Silence. Then his voice broke. She's just a kid. She's still my little girl. I know, I whispered. Come by later. We'll talk as a family. He agreed, and I braced myself. Because divorcing someone is one thing, but facing a crisis with them after years of hurt, that's another storm entirely. The center and the consequences. When I arrived at the community center, Malik was already there. Not in the room, standing outside, hands in pockets, face ashen,
like a man waiting for sentencing. He looked up when he saw me, but he didn't approach. Good. I walked past him and into the director's office. Inside, a small panel of 3 people sat behind a table. They reminded me of a jury, tired, disappointed, but resigned. Serena spoke first. "We called you here to let you know that an investigation has been opened for Malik." I nodded. "Nothing will involve or implicate Leela," she added quickly. "We confirmed she's no longer a minor, but policy was violated and public perception is complicated." Complicated, a polite word for disastrous. Another panel member, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, cleared his throat. "May, we heard you confronted him before coming to us." "I did," I said evenly. "My daughter told me before it spread." He nodded slowly. "You should know," he said. "He self-reported this morning, before the anonymous report came in." I blinked. "He what?" "He admitted the relationship," the man said. "He said he crossed boundaries, said he wanted to protect the integrity of the center." Serena sighed softly, almost sorrowfully. "He said he wanted to do what was right," she added, "even if it cost him everything." I looked at the table, letting the meaning settle. I didn't forgive him for hurting my daughter, but I could acknowledge courage when I saw it. "What happens next?" I asked. "We'll be suspending him," Serena said, "pending review and likely termination." "Will this be public?" "It's already public," she said grimly. "Someone posted about it on a neighborhood Facebook group." Ah, that explained the stares I noticed on the way in. Facing him, publicly. When I stepped outside, Malik was still standing there, shoulders slumped. For the first time, he looked small. Not physically, emotionally. Humbled, broken, bracing for whatever I was going to say. "They suspended me," he said quietly before I even asked. "I'll know more after the review." I studied him. "So now what? You planning to run? Hide?" "No," he said. "I'm going to stay and take whatever consequences come. I earned them." People were watching us. Employees walking by, parents dropping off kids, volunteers lingering by the glass doors. Whispers floated on the breeze. "That's him, the youth mentor? With a teenager? No, she's 19. Still wrong? Still messy? Still scandal?" And behind those whispers, "I think that's her mother. Poor woman. Lord have mercy." Malik's jaw tightened like he could feel every voice like a stone being thrown at him. Good, I thought. Let the weight sit. Let the lesson burn. But then, I heard another voice. A softer one. A worried one. "Is that Malik?" A group of kids, elementary age, stood at the edge of the steps, looking confused. One boy wrinkled his nose. "That's my coach. Why is he sad?" Malik's breath hitched. He turned away, chest writhing sharply. A man can face adults judging him, but it's the innocence of children that breaks him. I stepped closer, not to comfort him, but to anchor the moment. "You're feeling the consequences," I said quietly. "Every one of them." He nodded without turning. "You can't fix what happened, but you can face it. And you are." He swallowed hard. "Thank you for not tearing me apart in front of them." "I don't need to," I said calmly. "Life is already doing that job." He nodded again, slow, heavy, understanding. When Daniel arrived, I wasn't prepared for the sight of my ex-husband walking up the steps toward me with fire in his eyes, or for how quickly Malik straightened when he saw him, like a soldier preparing for impact. Daniel stopped 2 feet from him. "You're the one who—" "Yes," Malik said quietly. "And you admit it." "Yes. And you weren't forced, tricked, manipulated into confessing?" "No." Daniel stepped even closer. I held my breath. Then, he didn't hit him. He didn't yell. He just said, with a voice trembling with heartbreak instead of rage, "Do you have any idea how much you've damaged my daughter?" Malik closed his eyes. "Yes, and I'm so, so sorry." Daniel stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned to me. "May, let's go home. We need to talk as a family." I nodded. But as I turned away, I saw Malik wipe his face with the back of his hand quickly, quietly, like he didn't want anyone to witness that last piece of his dignity slipping. The world knew now. The center knew. The neighborhood knew. Our family knew. And whatever the future held, healing, forgiveness, boundaries, or complete distance, this was the part where everything changed. Not destroyed, changed. And change is hard, but sometimes necessary. I wish I could tell you that healing came to us like a sunrise, soft, gentle, warm, but no. Healing arrived in small pieces, shaky, slow, uneven, and sometimes painfully earned. For weeks, my house existed in 2 worlds. One where Daniel, my daughter's unborn child, grew quietly under her hand, and one where my past sins echoed in every corner. Tamara would still flinch when someone walked behind her. I would still double-check every locked door. And Emily, she never stopped watching us.